This city was not built to grow. It was built to endure, to adapt, and eventually to consume. New Orleans did not rise from ambition. It rose from fire. When flames erased its wooden body, stone replaced memory. Walls thickened, streets tightened. The city learned control before it learned speed. Then, without warning, ownership changed. Not through battle, not through rebuilding, but through ink on paper. A European city was dropped into an American system that did not ask permission. The stone endured. The rules did not. As the river filled with traffic, profit found a shape. Warehouses multiplied, ledgers thickened, and thanks to AI reconstruction, we can step back into the moment before everything accelerated. Before the city understood what survival would demand. Because before New Orleans became a system, it had to burn. And what the fire taught the city would decide who was allowed to move, and who would be moved instead. Cities usually grow by accumulation. New Orleans was forced to grow by erasure. In 1788, fire did what politics could not. It reset the city. In a matter of hours, flames devoured nearly everything that defined New Orleans. Wooden houses, narrow alleys, improvised additions, domestic chaos. What survived was not culture, not memory, not people, but the realization that the city itself had become a liability. And 6 years later, in 1794, fire returned to finish what it had started. This was not misfortune. This was a verdict. The old French colonial city was not merely destroyed, it was declared unfit to continue. Its materials burned too easily. Its layout spread too fast. Its informality resisted oversight. For Spanish authorities, the fires offered something rare in colonial governance: permission to redesign power in stone. Reconstruction was not about restoring what had been lost. It was about preventing what had existed before. What rose from the ashes was heavier, denser, and deliberate. Brick replaced timber. Thick masonry walls replaced fragile partitions. Roofs flattened. Courtyards turned inward. Balconies of wrought iron wrapped buildings in controlled exposure. Visible yet contained. Streets remained narrow, but buildings no longer surrendered to them. The rebuilt city absorbed heat, slowed movement, resisted collapse. It also watched its inhabitants more closely. This was architecture as instruction. The new city told people how to live inside it. Where fire once moved freely, circulation was now disciplined. Where homes once bled into the street, life retreated behind walls. Density no longer implied intimacy. It implied regulation. The rebuilt city did not invite improvisation. It tolerated presence only under conditions. Importantly, this transformation did not change who lived in New Orleans. The same people returned: Creoles, free people of color, enslaved Africans, merchants, sailors. What changed was the container. Culture persisted, but space no longer belonged to it. From this moment on, the city would shape behavior before behavior shaped the city. This is why the fires matter more than their destruction. They marked the moment New Orleans stopped being a loose settlement and became an engineered environment. The rebuilt French Quarter that tourists romanticize today is not a relic of French charm. It is the physical memory of fear, authority, and control. But this new city was built under one empire and would soon be claimed by another. The stone endured, the rules would not. And when a different system arrived, one that measured value not in stability, but in speed and profit, this rigid, controlled urban body would be forced to perform tasks it was never designed for. What happened when an American economic engine was inserted into a Spanish-built city is where the real pressure begins. In 1803, New Orleans did not change hands. It changed logic. The Louisiana Purchase transferred territory on paper, but on the ground it performed something far more violent. It dropped an American economic system into a European-built city, without redesigning either. No fire preceded this transfer. No reconstruction followed it. The stone remained Spanish. The laws remained hybrid. Only the expectations shifted, and they shifted overnight. For the United States, New Orleans was not a city to be understood. It was a mechanism to be used. Control of the Mississippi River meant control of the continent's interior. Grain, timber, cotton, and people would all have to pass through this narrow throat. Speed mattered, volume mattered, profit mattered. What did not matter was whether the city's inherited form could survive the strain. The existing urban body resisted. Civil law clashed with common law. French and Spanish legal traditions collided with Anglo-American commercial practices. Creole elites watched newcomers ignore customs that had governed the city for generations. Language fractured daily life. Authority duplicated itself. Even geography split the city. The French Quarter held on to memory. The American sector upriver expanded with confidence and disregard. This was not integration. It was parallel occupation. The deeper conflict, however, was invisible. The Spanish rebuild had produced a city optimized for containment. Thick walls, inward-facing courtyards, controlled circulation. The American system demanded expansion, acceleration, throughput. One valued stability. The other valued extraction. The city was no longer allowed to rest inside its own shape. It was asked to move faster than it was designed to move. And yet, this tension did not break New Orleans. It sharpened it. The rigid urban shell did what rigid systems often do under pressure. It redirected force rather than absorbing it. Trade intensified at the river. Warehouses multiplied along the docks. Financial instruments grew abstract, while physical labor grew brutal. The city began to separate appearance from function. Above, balconies and facades preserved an illusion of continuity. Below, the logic of American capitalism reorganized space around efficiency and exchange. This moment matters because it explains why New Orleans would never resemble other American cities. It was not founded by the United States. It was repurposed by it. The city learned to operate under incompatible instructions, holding two worldviews in a single frame. That contradiction did not resolve itself. It metastasized. Once the American system fully activated the Mississippi corridor, the city's role would narrow. It would stop being a cultural crossroads and become a processing point. And when profit finally demanded scale, when cotton and human bodies began to move in quantities the old city could not morally or physically contain, the tension introduced in 1803 would harden into a machine. The next phase would reveal what that machine was built to consume. By the 1820s, New Orleans no longer struggled to reconcile its contradictions. It monetized them. The Mississippi River, once a geographic advantage, hardened into an economic command. Everything upstream, cotton, sugar, timber, and people, was now oriented toward this single point of release. New Orleans did not merely sit at the mouth of the river. It functioned as a valve. What passed through was transformed into profit. What could not pass through was left behind. This was the moment the city became a machine. Cotton defined its rhythm. By the 1830s, New Orleans handled more cotton than any port on earth. Warehouses multiplied. Wharves thickened. Clerks replaced craftsmen. Ledgers replaced faces. Time was measured in shipments, not seasons. The city's economy no longer depended on local life. It depended on volume, and volume demanded labor. Cheap, controlled, endlessly replaceable. That demand turned New Orleans into the largest internal slave market in the United States. Human beings arrived in chains, not from across the ocean, but from within the nation itself. Families were broken quietly, efficiently, legally. Auction blocks rose near elegant facades. Transactions occurred within sight of balconies built to symbolize order. The Spanish-built city that once contained fire now contained commerce of a different kind. Bodies were inspected, priced, moved, and recorded with the same detachment as cotton bales. The system did not require cruelty to function. Indifference was sufficient. This phase matters because it exposes the final consequence of the earlier transformations. The rigid urban form built after the fires did not collapse under pressure. It channeled it. The legal ambiguity introduced after 1803 did not resolve. It enabled exploitation. The American system did not adapt to the city. It used it. New Orleans became indispensable precisely because it could separate elegance from brutality, culture from function, wealth from responsibility. Growth followed predictably. Population surged. Wealth concentrated. Disease spread through overcrowded quarters. Yellow fever returned seasonally, selecting its victims with cruel consistency. Free people of color navigated narrow spaces between opportunity and restriction. Music, ritual, and resistance survived, but always at the margins of a city optimized for extraction. By 1840, New Orleans no longer asked what it was becoming. It only asked how much could move, how fast, and at what cost. Ships continued to arrive. Ledgers continued to fill. Balconies still caught the evening light. From the street, the city looked alive. From the river, it looked efficient. And somewhere between those two views, lives passed through without leaving a trace. The machine did not roar. It hummed. And the most dangerous thing about it was not that it destroyed people, but that it no longer needed to notice them at all.